What is up, guys? So I've touched on offerings in some of my videos in the past about the disposal of offerings, but I've never really talked about how long to leave offerings on your shrine or altar. If you would like to leave offerings on your shrine or altar more than one day, some things you can and some things you can't. It depends how often you do a prayer or ritual, and it depends also on what you leave on your altar and how frequently you clean it. So it's just a few things for some of you guys that wonder, I did an offering, so how long am I supposed to leave it on the altar? So I always want to give you guys a few tips on that right now. So sometimes we offer meat. So depending on your god or goddess you want to honor, Artemis comes to mind. I know a lot of people like to give meat to Artemis on certain holidays. Sometimes it's some of the hunt that they had killed, or just from the grocery store. And again, Zeus, you can offer beef, for example, for Zeus. But the question is, how long should I leave meat on my altar or shrine? My suggestion is obvious, that if it's raw meat, to get rid of it after the first day. If it's cooked meat, you can leave it on for a couple of days. So the answer to all of these about how disposal of offerings, the answer to that, sometimes for meat, you can usually burn it as an offering, or you can bury it. So burn or bury is how I'd recommend disposal of meat offerings. But again, raw meat, same day, just for disease reasons. If nothing else, you don't want to have raw meat sitting on a table or shrine, especially during the summer. And then cooked meat a day or two, and then dispose of it then. So when it comes to fruit juice and wine, you can leave it for a few days. Again, depending on the temperature of where you live, but it can stay for, I like to keep it 2-3 days. When it comes to wine, again, on colder temperatures, you can usually leave it on the altar for about a week. But fruit juices, you want to kind of dispose of that as soon as possible, 2-3 days maybe. Again, temperature varying where you live. And you just pour those on the ground is how you would dispose of that. And the reason being is the longer you leave wine, and especially fruit juice, on your altar, it will start to mold, so you want to get rid of it at most 2-3 days, I'd recommend. So water is one of the things that you can pretty much leave on your altar for weeks at a time, because it won't go bad. You just leave it on your altar, and you can leave it there for a few days. I don't usually like to keep water on my altar for long periods of time, because I mean, it could risk mold, but also it can grow stale and just dirty water. So a few days to a week or two. But water is one of the ones that is one of your more lengthy offerings. Same thing for honey. So for honey can actually stay on your altar forever. I like to call that a permanent offering. As long as you put it in a jar, honey never goes bad, so you can always leave it on your altar. Just don't leave it open on your altar, because then bugs will start getting into it. So keep that in mind, keep it in jars, maybe opening a lid whenever you're at your altar as an offering, but keep it sealed with a lid, and honey's forever, and it's a permanent offering. For milk, I would get rid of it after the same day, so later that day or that next morning. The reason being is that milk will go bad when it's left out in the open, especially during the summertime. So for milk, get rid of it the same day, and if not, the following day, please. It will start to stink and spoil. So milk is very consuming, I guess, or it doesn't have a shelf life. That's it. So definitely get rid of milk as soon as possible. So the ashes of incense should be thrown away the same day or buried outside. The reason being just for respect of the altar or shrine and the god. You can leave technically ashes on your altar, like incense cone ashes and just all of your ashes from all your incenses, but it's kind of disrespectful. For that reason alone, immediately I would get rid of the ashes. So bread can stay on your altar for a day or two, but the problem with bread left out in the open is that it eventually starts to grow stale, and if you leave it on the altar for weeks, it will mold. So definitely dispose of bread after a day or two. And again, like most things, it will attract bugs if you're not careful. So definitely, when you do have a chance, bread a day or two, but I wouldn't leave it for it staling or molding over time. Same goes for chocolate and candy, because they will melt and draw bugs. So if you leave candy and chocolate out in the open for Aphrodite, for example, I would dispose of it the same day or the next day. So when it comes to flowers, they can stay on your altar until they start to decay and wilt. Again, just for disrespectful reasons, and decaying and wilted flowers do start to stink over time. So whenever you see the flowers start to wilt and die, definitely get rid of those. Again, this is all subject to circumstance and your own way you do things, because if you do offerings every day, then obviously you would get rid of your offerings every day. But if you don't do it as often or frequently, you can leave some things for at least a few days, depending on what it is. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys like this video, and I'll talk to you later. Stay safe out there. Bye.